From being considered one of the best managers in the world at Ajax,
Erik was amazing in Ajax. For me, he built the best two teams outside the 5 strongest leagues.
to being the fastest manager sacked in Bundesliga history.
Erik Ten Hag, 2 games at Bayer Leverkusen, out.
From winning 2 titles at United,
I think we have proven the last 2 years we win, and I've proven in my career always I will win. The last 6 years I have 8 trophies.
to now being jobless. What the hell happened with Erik Ten Hag? We might as well start calling this guy Erik 10 weeks, because his reign at Bayer Leverkusen only lasted that long. Technically it ended 1 day short of 9 weeks, but technicalities ruined the brilliant nickname. Now whenever a manager gets sacked, especially in this matter, there are always 2 sides to the story. Both Leverkusen and Ten Hag are at fault. So let's begin with the manager first. When Ten Hag was sacked by Manchester United, he had a chance to return to Ajax, the club where he made his name, but he decided against it. He wanted to start fresh at a new club, in a new country, while remaining in Europe's top 5 league. So when Leverkusen came calling, he took the opportunity. He knew of course there would be some challenges. Following in the footsteps of Xabi Alonso and what he achieved with that club was never going to be easy. They were also selling players left and right. Wirtz, Frimpong, Ta were all gone, and more departures were to follow. Still though, it seemed like a great team for Ten Hag to rebuild his career with. Yet from the beginning, things did not look good. His side were thrashed 5-1 by Flamengo's under-20 side in their first preseason game in Brazil. Of course, it was only friendlies, and Ten Hag actually said that himself. His team won 3 of their next 4 friendlies, as well as their DFB Pokal first round clash. On paper, a 4-0 result looked really good, but many of Leverkusen's goals came late. It was a comfortable win, but it didn't really answer the questions about how the team would look under their new coach. Then came their Bundesliga opener on August 23rd. Things actually started well, with new signing Jarell Quansah scoring early, but Hoffenheim hit back twice and won 2-1. Losing at home on your first day is already tough, but losing to a team that many assumed you would easily beat, it's even worse. That raised some eyebrows. Leverkusen looked shaky in their shape and intensity, nothing like the sharp machine that Alonso left behind. The real disaster though hit a week later away at Werder Bremen. For a while it seemed fine. Schick scored, Tillman added 1 on his debut, and after Bremen had a man sent off, Schick made it 3-1 from the spot. Easy win, right? Nope. A long ball caught out keeper Mark Flecken, Bremen pulled one back, and then 18-year-old Karim Koulibaly smashed in a stoppage time equalizer. The final score, 3-3. Dropping points while you're up 3-1 against 10 men is embarrassing, and the way Leverkusen panicked in the final minutes, it made it look even worse. 2 days later, Ten Hag was gone. He lasted just 62 days with 3 competitive games and only 1 point in the league, making it the fastest sacking in Bundesliga history. The club didn't want to waste more time because the problems looked too big to ignore. After the 3-3 meltdown against Bremen, reportedly, Erik Ten Hag just lost it in the locker room. He told the players they should be embarrassed, accused them of playing like boys, and ripped into their lack of fitness and intensity. There's nothing wrong with getting pissed after your team has a terrible performance. The problem was that his words didn't really land. Instead of sparking a fire under the players, it only added to the bad vibe in the locker room. Even their captain, Robert Andrich, didn't hold back. After the match, he went public, saying the team was selfish and lacked discipline. According to him, too many players were focused on themselves instead of the team. The words were harsh, but they showed just how divided things were within the squad. That lack of unity was on display during the game too. At 3-1 up, Patrick Schick and Luis Palacios argued over who should take the penalty. Schick eventually stepped up, but the scene said it all. Rather than staying focused, the players were fighting among each other. Meanwhile, Mark Tillman, who had actually played really well and even scored, looked completely drained at full time. It seemed more than normal fatigue. His body language looked like someone who realized the team around him was a lost cause and falling apart. He looks like me after I score a hat-trick in pro clubs and my boys still lose 10-3. Oh my god! Putting it all together, Ten Hag's brutal rant, Anderk's public criticism, the penalty drama, and it paints a clear picture. The squad wasn't mentally strong, they weren't on the same page, and the trust was breaking down fast. Instead of building momentum under a new coach and taking advantage of the new manager tax, Leverkusen just fell apart. When things started to spiral at Leverkusen, one of the loudest silences actually came from the top of the club. Normally when a new coach struggles, you'll hear the club bosses, whether it's CEO Fernando Caro or sporting director Simon Rolfs. Somebody jumps in and backs the manager, at least publicly. This time though, nothing. Crickets. After the 3-3 collapse at Werder Bremen, both of them kept quiet, and I think that said a lot about where their confidence stood with Erik Ten Hag. The only person to actually add fuel to the fire was Robert Andre, with his now famous post-match comments. He said the chaos reminded him of what happened under Gerardo Seoane in 2022, before Xabi Alonso came in and completely turned things around. That comparison stung because everybody remembered how Seoane's Leverkusen was sitting 17th on the table before the Spaniard saved the day. He basically told fans, yeah, we've seen this movie before and it didn't end well. Within 48 hours of the Werder Bremen game, the decision was made. Ten Hag was gone after just 3 competitive matches. In the club's official statement, both Caro and Rolfs admitted it wasn't what they wanted, but they felt they had no choice. Rolfs explained that the team itself had quality, but there was no clear direction under Ten Hag, and they couldn't risk waiting for things to maybe improve. Caro added that it was necessary to make a clean break before the season slipped away. He said that when you're in charge of making big calls, sometimes you get them wrong, and in this case, letting it drag on would have been an even bigger mistake. To their credit, the board didn't try to sugarcoat the situation. Rolfs even came out and said it was a mistake to initially appoint Ten Hag. That kind of honesty is actually pretty rare in football, but it also shows you how badly things had gone. I'm glad the club took responsibility because they should have done their due diligence when it came to Ten Hag. There should have been nothing about him that was surprising because there's no way you should ever be sacking a manager that quickly. The way the whole saga played out showed a total breakdown in the leadership. The coach couldn't inspire the players, the captain was openly criticizing the squad, and the executives had clearly lost faith almost immediately. Now at this point, we all know that Ten Hag is not a great man manager. At Manchester United, he fell out with Sancho and Cristiano Ronaldo. In his defense, I don't think there's much more he could have done with Sancho. He gave the guy a mental health getaway to the mountains, stayed patient with him, but that guy just had no intention of playing for United. The issue with Ten Hag is that he thinks he's Mourinho or something. You can freeze out players or isolate certain individuals if you have the pedigree. If you have won big trophies and are a big personality, you can get away with it like Mourinho used to. Ten Hag, though, isn't that guy. Instead of doubling down and defending their appointment, the club decided to pull the plug and basically stop things before they got too toxic. It's worth remembering too that this wasn't a team expected to fall apart. Even with all the big player sales, the squad still had enough talent to aim for a top 4 spot. That's exactly why the board acted so quickly. They had seen this exact story before with Seoane, and they weren't about to let it happen again. Now BIT actually released a full breakdown that provided more details on why Ten Hag was sacked. They confirmed the fact that Ten Hag didn't get along with anyone at the club. It wasn't just an issue with the players, but also with his own staff that he brought over to Germany himself. Basically anybody who you'd expect a coach to have a good relationship with, Ten Hag kept them at arm's length. That might work if you're winning games and everybody's respecting the results. But when the team looks lost on the pitch, it becomes a huge problem. If nobody feels like they're on your side, it's only a matter of time before everything becomes unraveled. He interfered with the squad planning and only proposed players from his own agency. This was a big issue at Manchester United because not only was the club signing not great players just because Ten Hag asked for them, but they were actually overpaying for these guys. Like Højlund joined SCG, Ten Hag's agency, just before he went to United, which was incredibly dodgy. The same thing happened with Amrabat. The rest of the points basically confirm what I had said earlier. The atmosphere around the club was cold, and the players had no idea what to do during matches. One hilarious part was the players asking why they were doing more push-ups than ball work. Reportedly, the team talk was also skipped before the Hoffenheim game. Players were shocked at how quiet the locker room was, and it showed in how flat they looked on the pitch. Like, it's one thing to lose a match. It's another when the squad feels like their coach isn't even setting them up properly. The Dutch newspaper, De Telegraaf, said that Ten Hag struggled to communicate with everyone and just lacked enthusiasm. None of this should really shock anybody who followed Ten Hag closely at Manchester United. Back then, he often struggled in press conferences. His answers weren't always clear, and the club staff sometimes had to step in and explain what he really meant to reporters. Another issue was the lack of visible passion from him. His former assistant, Benny McCarthy, even said previously that in modern football, players want to see a bit more fire from their coach. They need to feel like the coach is with them, ready to fight alongside them. Tactically, Erik is top class, but he doesn't always show that passion. At Leverkusen, to be honest with you, he was on shaky ground from the start. The club's first choice was actually Cesc Fabregas, who, like Xabi Alonso, had the star power and excitement of a young coach at the beginning of a big career. But Como weren't letting him leave, so Leverkusen turned to Ten Hag, who had been unemployed since United sacked him the previous October. On top of the off-the-pitch drama, There was the tactical issues. Leverkusen fans had just watched Xabi Alonso's team dominate Europe with clear patterns, confidence, and control. Under Ten Hag, it was the opposite. The side went from being fearless to being fragile. They would go ahead in games, then suddenly retreat into a shell, inviting pressure. The Werder Bremen match was the perfect example. I mean, how do you blow a 3-1 lead against 10 men instead of just killing the game? They panicked, sat deep, and completely lost control. Being so open and shaky against a team who was at the bottom half of the table in the previous season just didn't make sense. Football isn't just about tactics or transfers. It's about managing people, managing the emotions of players, developing that trust, and Ten Hag, he didn't do any of that. And that's where it all fell apart. Now, to be fair to Ten Hag, he did have to deal with a massive squad turnover. I'm not talking about losing one or two big names. They pretty much lost the entire starting 11 from the undefeated team. Florian Wirtz went, Frimpong went, Adli went, Victor Boniface was loaned out, Kusunu was sold, and then in the back line, players like Ta and Herdecki all left too. On top of that, Granit Xhaka, who had been one of the most important leaders in Alonso's setup, was sold to Sunderland. That's basically the spine of the title-winning side ripped out all in one window. Now, player sales are normal at Leverkusen. They are a selling club. But this many this quickly, it shocked a lot of people. Even Ten Hag himself admitted he couldn't believe the turnover. And when it came to Xhaka, that's where the tensions really boiled over. Ten Hag went public, saying that the club can't afford to let go of any more leaders, and argued that Xhaka was too central to the squad's culture and structure to be sold. The problem was that Simon Rolfs and Caro saw it differently. They thought that cashing in on a 32-year-old midfielder with big wages was smart business. For them, getting a strong fee and freeing up the books was a win-win. For Ten Hag though, it felt like the club was pulling the rug out from under him. The public disagreement did not go well. It had kicked off, all of these problems had piled up together. Players were unsure about their tactical setup structure. The squad itself was talented, but it looked patched together. New pieces everywhere, no glue holding them in place. It seemed like Ten Hag didn't benefit from the United tax, one of the few players to leave that club and somehow get worse.
An era can come to an end.
Luckily, Ten Hag's protege Anthony is doing very well for himself. To see how good he has been for Betis, you have to check out this video right here.